The Teran Republic was not a newcomer to the galactic scene. It merely existed in a state of isolation that rendered it largely inconsequential to most other powers and their conflicts, allowing it to operate largely unnoticed. Initial diplomatic efforts with neighboring stellar nations fell flat for various reasons. Some outright refused to engage with humanity, often without clear justification, while others simply didn't see any value in establishing relations. As a result, the Teran Republic remained confined to its own small corner of the galaxy, pursuing expansion and industrialization to achieve self-sufficiency and necessity for this hermetic republic. This quest for autonomy prompted the Teran government to embark on social, engineering, and political initiatives of unprecedented scale in human history. Such initiatives required a fundamental transformation of human culture to foster the high levels of education and population growth essential for effective and rapid colonization of their local star cluster. The logistical challenges were monumental, rendering the colonization of Mars relatively simple by comparison. Furthermore, maintaining unity among the colonies and Terra was crucial to prevent secessionist tendencies stemming from their vast distances apart. The Teran government undertook massive development projects to ensure that these colonies became integral and productive components of the expanding republic. The administrative apparatus had to be significantly expanded and streamlined to effectively govern territories light years away from Sol. Ultimately, the republic succeeded. It stretched its borders to the limits of the unclaimed space available to it, crafting a cohesive human culture that bonded its diverse territories and effectively developed them into vital contributors to the Republic. Despite its achievements, the Teran Republic remained relatively small compared to its neighbors. Its isolated status meant that few outside its immediate vicinity even recognized its existence, except for a handful of geopolitical enthusiasts from surrounding nations. The region controlled by the Teran Republic transformed into a highly developed and densely populated area of the galaxy, yet the bordering nations continued to refuse contact with the Terrans. As humanity gathered intelligence about their galactic neighborhood by intercepting local communications, it became apparent that the Teran Republic's territory functioned as a buffer zone among regional powers. The ease with which humanity was able to colonize the area stemmed from a reluctance among its rivals to provoke one another into war. Ironically, the rivals were somewhat relieved to have humanity acting as a buffer. The Teran Republic provided a more solid barrier than empty space. However, this situation relegated the Republic to a perpetual state of isolation, oblivious to events beyond their stellar neighborhood. What information they could gather was limited, as neighboring nations did not want the Terrans allied with any rival that could use them as a strategic advantage. Thus, the Terrans existed as a small hermit republic largely unknown to the vast majority of the galactic population and governments. This status quo was upended with the advent of the Rugari invasion. The Rugari Empire, a significant power in its sector, aimed to expand its territory and viewed the region occupied by the Republic as ripe for conquest. Humanity first became aware of the Rugari when they annexed the neighboring Astragon Concordat. The signs of war were evident due to the large mobilization of forces, but the specific adversary was unknown. After annexing the Astragon, the Rugari expected to easily advance into the Etherian Confederation. What they did not anticipate was an encounter with a nation they had never heard of. The Teran Republic had transformed into a fortified camp, prepared in case the regional Cold War escalated into open conflict and they found themselves in the line of fire. Both the Rugari and Terrans had been unaware of each other's existence just months before, yet the Rugari were not inclined to halt their campaign merely to acknowledge what they perceived as a minor obstacle on their path to dominance. The Terrans regarded the Rugari as another formidable challenge to face. When the first Rugari fleet entered the Tau Ceti system, it was swiftly annihilated by the Terran Second Fleet. A campaign of strategic destruction was launched against the Rugari invasion forces. Decapitation strikes by the Teran Intelligence Agency left much of the Rugari military disoriented and leaderless. Key supply nodes were obliterated, leaving Rugari troops under-resourced and starving along various fronts. The Rugari were caught completely off guard by the fresh forces humanity had at its disposal. Eventually, external pressures called for a peace settlement, which both the Rugari and Terans accepted. The Rugari acquiesced due to their inability to sustain the war, while the Terans accepted because they had already obtained the concessions they sought from the Etherians and Aragons for their assistance in the conflict. This marked humanity's first contact with the broader galaxy beyond their immediate neighbors and the Rugari. The nation initiating peace talks was the Humanitarian state, understood by the Terans to be the most formidable power in the galaxy. They proposed a meeting aboard one of their capital ships, the battleship Fortitude, to discuss the peace terms, with humanity emerging on the winning side. Ilaria awaited the arrival of her fellow representatives, Alishan on her right and Machinas on her left. The three 12-foot-tall Humanitarians, who were of average height for their species, donned their standard civilian-powered armor, which encased them from head to toe, typical attire for their kind. They anticipated the arrival of the Rugari and Teran delegations. At last, the Rugari delegates entered, their expressions grave. The Rugari were a reptilian species known for their strength, though they were outmatched by the Humanitarians. "Take a seat," Ilaria commanded, and they complied. The chairs and tables had been adjusted for the shorter races, forcing the three Humanitarians to stand for the peace negotiations. Shortly after, three Teran delegates entered, clad in sealed suits that concealed their features. Their posture and build struck the Humanitarians as eerily familiar. The Terans gazed up at the towering Humanitarians, their awe palpable even behind their visors. "You may remove your helmets if you wish. Terans, this room's atmosphere is conducive to both Terans and Rugari," Machinas offered. Thank you," one of the Terans replied, reaching for his helmet and unlatching it. The other delegates followed suit, revealing faces that bore an unsettling resemblance to the Humanitarians, who stared in shock. "Now, where do we sit?" the Teran began, only to be interrupted by Alishan's furious outburst. "Is this some kind of sick joke?" Alishan roared, his voice brimming with anger. What the Terans replied, fear creeping into their voices. "Calm down," Alishan Ilaria commanded, but "calm down," she insisted more firmly. Ilaria approached the Teran delegates, moving around the table as the Rugari delegates watched nervously. She towered over the Terans and knelt down to scrutinize them closely. "Machinas, could you summon a doctor?" "I want these three examined," Ilaria instructed. "Yes," Ilaria Machinas acknowledged, dialing the doctor on his communicator. "May we ask why you're calling a doctor?" one of the Terans inquired. "Just confirming what we suspect, little one." "No need to be frightened," Ilaria reassured them, switching from a professional tone to a more nurturing one. "No offense, ma'am, but we'd prefer not to be called little ones. It's degrading," the Teran retorted. "Ainmam, we shall see," Ilaria replied. Finally, the Humanitarian doctor arrived, clad in white armor and adorned with a symbol indicating his profession. "Well, hello, little ones. How did you end up here?" the Humanitarian doctor inquired. We are the delegation sent by the Teran Republic to negotiate a peace agreement with the Rugari," one of the delegates explained. "Hey, sure you are," little one, the doctor scoffed. "Could you take blood samples?" Ilaria requested. "Sure, come here." "Little ones," the doctor said, setting down his medical bag and producing a syringe. "Hey, wait a minute. We never agreed to ache." The three Terans found their arms raised, wrists pointed skyward. The Humanitarian doctor clicked his tongue in amusement. "What the hell? Why can't I lower my arm? What is happening?" the Terans shouted in confusion. The Rugari chuckled at the sight of their enemies in a state of panic, but a fierce glare from Alishan silenced them. "Come on, little ones, haven't you ever heard of psionics? Didn't your parents ever tell you about them?" the doctor asked. "We've never seen or heard of psionics being real before, sir." "Please release my arm," one of the Terans pleaded. "How?" "Strange," the doctor mused. Indeed, Ilaria concurred. The doctor tore open one of the Terran's suits at the wrist that remained elevated. "All right, this might sting a bit," the Humanitarian doctor said as he inserted the syringe. He repeated the process with the other two Terans. The doctor finally released the Terans from his psionic grip, and they immediately began rubbing their sore wrists. "The Republic will hear about this incident," one of the delegates warned. The doctor ignored them, instead retrieving another instrument from his bag. After inserting one of the blood vials into a machine, it produced results. "Oh. Oh no," the doctor said, as though he had just stumbled upon a horrifying revelation. "What is it?" one of the Terrans asked anxiously. "Oh, nothing." "Little one," the doctor replied dismissively. The Terrans groaned in frustration. The doctor tested the other vials and offered similarly disheartening responses. He approached the still kneeling Ilaria and whispered something into her powered suit's audio receptor. Ilaria gasped. "All three of them," she exclaimed. "I'm afraid," so the doctor confirmed. "Now hold on. What the hell are you not telling us? You invited us here to discuss peace negotiations, and now you're taking blood tests without our consent. What is going on?" one of the Terrans demanded. The powered armored giants looked down at the relatively small man. "If I may, could you do a reading on them as well? We need to understand what we're dealing with," Ilaria suggested. "I agree. All right, you three, brace yourselves. The first reading always feels odd," the doctor instructed the Terrans. The Terrans gripped their heads as a sudden migraine assaulted them, only to dissipate just as quickly. "Oh," the doctor exclaimed, a mix of shock and disbelief crossing his face. "What's oh?" Ilaria pressed. "Well, these three aren't lying. They really are delegates sent by the Teran Republic to negotiate a peace agreement with the Rugari," the doctor said. "It's just that the Terrans are merely children afflicted with the Escalation disease." The other humanitarians in the room gasped at the doctor's revelation. "If I had to guess, these are the descendants of those who were on that hospital ship we lost contact with millennia ago. This explains their ignorance about psionics. They die too young to develop them. We should inform the families of the long deceased. They may want custody of the descendants," the doctor suggested. His gaze shifted to the Rugari delegates. "So, congratulations, Rugari. You lost a war to children suffering from a debilitating illness. It would be amusing if it weren't so tragic," the doctor stated. "What evidence do you have for any of this?" a Terran inquired. Ilaria promptly removed her helmet, revealing a face strikingly similar to a human's, the only difference being her glowing blue orbs instead of eyes. "What the hell?" the Terran exclaimed. "Do you suppose we can maintain normal diplomatic relations?" another Terran delegate asked. "No. The families of those long gone have a right, under humanitarian state law, to the descendants of those lost to the Escalation disease. What will be challenging is determining who has rights to whom, but we will eventually figure it out," Ilaria clarified. "Crap," the Terrans groaned in unison. "Doctor, please escort these little ones to the intensive care unit," Ilaria instructed. "With pleasure," Ilaria, the doctor responded. "What about the negotiations?" one of the Rugari delegates queried. Ilaria turned to them. "We will consult our government regarding this new development. And then, let's just say our terms will be considerably less lenient than those offered by the little ones," she warned. The Rugari gulped in fear. All the accomplishments of the Teran Republic, their astonishing feats of industry, organization, and military might ultimately reduced to mere child's play. The Escalation disease exclusively affects humanitarian children, leading to muscle degradation, gradual vision loss, mental disorders, premature reproductive development, and premature death. Without the proper treatment, those afflicted will not live past the age of 200, even under intensive care. Before a cure was discovered, Escalation disease accounted for 98% of all humanitarian child fatalities. The development of this cure was hailed as one of the most significant breakthroughs in humanitarian history. In the year BB-87, the hospital ship Escalation, carrying over 1,000 humanitarian children afflicted with the Escalation disease, vanished. The parents of the missing children demanded efforts to locate the lost vessel, but every search party returned empty-handed. BC-2187 edit the hospital ship Escalation was later discovered to have crash-landed on the planet known both as Earth and Terra. The children appeared to have survived the crash, becoming the first in a long lineage of short-lived generations on the planet. At some point, a generation of descendants, Identifying themselves as Terrans and humans established a planetary government that would expand into their local star groups. The Republic had been deliberately isolated and hidden by its neighbors to maintain its neutrality, acting as a buffer state between regional powers. During the Rugari's aggressive war efforts, the Teran Republic fought against the encroaching Rugari Empire, which had annexed the Astragon Concordat. The Teran Republic achieved a series of military victories, severely crippling the Rugari Empire's ability to wage war in that region of the galaxy. The conflict unveiled the existence of the Teran Republic, revealing to humanitarian officials the true nature of the Terrans during peace negotiations aboard the Fortitude. The Terrans were escorted to the Fortitude's intensive care unit, where their genetic lineage was analyzed, confirming they descended from multiple humanitarian families. A joint custody arrangement has since been agreed upon. The discovery of the Terrans as mere children suffering from the Escalation disease sparked widespread anti-Rugari sentiment among the humanitarian populace. The Rugari Empire has since come under humanitarian occupation, and the future of its people remains uncertain. The Teran Republic has rejected all humanitarian proposals for peaceful integration, declaring whoever your children were is long gone. We are our own nation and people now. Please leave us be. This refusal prompted Admiral Takoris Alaton to make a public statement. As all red-blooded humanitarians, it is our duty to bring our sick little ones back. They may not wish it, but for their own well-being and for the families that lost their loved ones long ago, it pains me to say this, but we will not negotiate with the mentally unfit. Numerous fleets carrying psionic specialists and system-disabling weaponry have since departed for the Teran Republic, aiming to facilitate the capture of the territory with minimal bloodshed. In response, the Teran Republic has mobilized its military assets in a display of defiance. However, the likelihood of victory in the impending conflict is considered low. While the Teran Republic's military is regarded as one of the most powerful in the region following its victory over the Rugari, a humanitarian general described it in comparison to the humanitarian state's military as nothing but child's play.